All right. Hey there, and welcome to another exciting episode of Tawana Talks. It's me, Tawana, and I am beyond thrilled to have you join me today. First things first, let's kick this off with a virtual high five and a big warm hug to all the amazing listeners. Thank you guys for listening in. We are in season 3. Whether you're tuning in for your morning commute or you're sipping on your favorite cup of coffee or tea, that's your business. And even if you're sneaking in some podcast time during your lunch break, I am so glad that you are here. So, ladies, getting ready right now to be inspired and empowered by none other than the fabulous Detra M. Trueheart, calling all women on a mission, leaders with a vision and anyone ready to take life by its reins. Detra is here to light up your world with her infectious energy and unwavering faith. As a coach, speaker, consultant, strategist, and author, Detra wears many hats, and she wears them well with such style and grace. I am so excited to have her here. She is a powerhouse of empowerment and personal development, and she often says helping women get out of their own way, and I just love that. So if you're in the car, buckle up. If you're sitting down, sip another sip of that coffee, and let's get ready for an unforgettable ride with Detra M. Trueheart, as she is going to take the mic, take the stage. I am so excited, and I have the pleasure of having Detra here from my hometown and also being in many of her empowerment speakings. Like we were just talking, this was way back before Zoom, like it was Skype. And so let's just give it up for Detra. Thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for thinking of me. I'm excited. I'm excited to be here.
Me too.
So as I say to everybody, hey girl, hey.
Hey girl, hey. So while I sip on my coffee, because tea is not my thing, but anyway, like what's her name? When she say that's your business?
Oh, Tabitha.
Tabitha, that's your business. So we are going to kick this off first with an icebreaker game, and I'm so excited because I am I would say 80s baby. No, I wasn't born in the 80s, but I grew up in the 80s. So I'm an 80s baby, right? And so we have 3 categories. One is grab bag. And the reason why I say grab bag, because if you grew up in the 80s, you do remember going to the dollar store and being able to get a grab bag. And your mother paid $1 for it, and you had a bunch of stuff, and you were so excited to get your grab bag. So one category is grab bag. That's a mixture of something there. Then we have mixtape music, because you knew that you was listening to 93.7 Power 94, and you press pause so that you could get that song just right to make your perfect mixtape. Or we have family time TV, because we knew at 8 o'clock, that's when your shows came on, particularly Cosby's on Thursday at 8 o'clock. And you only went to the bathroom during the commercial break, so you can get back on Friday and talk to your friends about the episodes that was going on. So there are your 3 categories. You pick one. It's going to be the dollar store grab bag. Is it going to be the mixtape music, or is it going to be the family time TV?
I think I'm going to go with family time TV.
Family time TV it is. So let's take a look. All right. I am going to give you 3 questions separately, and you are going to answer these questions.
Okay.
I'll take you back. You ready?
Yes.
All right. Detra, who is Dabness Brittany?
Dabness Brittany.
Brittany.
Who?
Dabness Brittany.
Oh no. Is that Vanessa's husband from the Cosby Show?
It's Vanessa's fiance.
Yes. I'm like, wait, I know that name.
Why do you know that name as if he came to your house and visited?
Child, because we were watching the Cosby Show every Thursday night. It was Thursday night.
Yep.
Because Fridays was Family Matters.
Yep.
And then after that, A Different World was coming on. That's why I know.
Different World was coming on. Listen, when he told Dabness Brittany that she brought him there like he was on the garbage top. Oh, goodness. Okay. So you think you know your stuff.
I hope so.
All right. Khadijah and her roommates lived together in which 1980s sitcom?
We are living single.
They just
Listen.
had such a crazy dynamic there. Yes. Okay. 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 So you got it. That was the 90s. So, okay. I
Uh-huh.
appreciate that. All right. Here is one that's going to really take you back and test your
Okay.
knowledge. Which comedy TV series featured an alien living with a suburban human family?
Oh, wait. I can see him.
Describe them.
He was brown. He was furry. Doggone it. I can see him. What is his name? I know exactly who he is too. Tell me his name. What is his name?
Elf.
Elf.
And
Yeah.
I didn't find out until I was adult that it stood for alien life form.
Oh,
Did you know that? Oh, so you was today years old when you found that out.
I was right now years old.
Right now years old.
Right now years old. Elf. Yes.
And he had the perfect sense of humor, the best comebacks,
Mm-hmm.
all of that.
Yes. Sarcastic humor.
Sarcastic humor, all of that.
All
All
the
of
things. Yes. Oh my goodness. I
it.
remember Elf.
I do too.
How crazy is that? You
How
take
crazy. Takes you back.
it
So when
does.
you go down memory lane, like just thinking back to those times in our life when it was what we thought, can it be? It was all so simple then, right? And you be like, I just want to be a grown up. And now you're just like, this adulthood is the raggediest neighborhood I've ever been to. Like, why would I wish for this? Like, could I not know? And just thinking about that, like when we think about leadership and we think about parenting, like a lot of time is spent just helping to prepare people for the things that we know is there. And so that's like what our parents did all the time. It's like, you don't want to be grown. He's like, yes, I do. Because you wanted to go in. Like I remember wanting to be grown so I could stay out as long as I want. And when I got my own apartment, I was home by 8 o'clock. Like, I don't do that.
Listen, on the couch or in the bed. Clothes off. Listen.
What's
Comfortable.
the memes say like all the stuff I didn't want to do, I live to do. Take a nap, go home
Mhm.
early. I want to do all of that. I be calling my mother like, can you pick me up from work? I want to do this today. So when you think back, just like, can you take us back to a moment like in your journey where you had to channel like your inner superhero to like overcome a challenge? And
Oh,
like, let me add on to that. Like,
mhm.
when I say superhero, like a superwoman, and like, what cape did you wear to help you emerge in that victoriousness?
Who? I feel like there are so many. Wow. So I think I'm gonna keep it simple right now because I feel like we're gonna go deeper at some point. I'm gonna start off light, right, for the people. I feel like even just parenting, like my son will be 13 um in September. And I feel like not necessarily that I have to put on a super cape, but that just even just when you see yourself in your child and when you see them kind of struggling through things and you decide, and again, it may not necessarily be a cape, but you get to decide or you get to kind of rewrite how you respond to that specific situation because you remember when you were there, right? And so whether it is like rewriting how I respond to whether it may be a traumatic situation or a situation where, let's just say, like when I was growing up, there was no real conversation around sex. There was no real conversation around intimacy. There was no real conversation around like communication, that sort of thing. And so for me, it's literally, and I don't know if that's been an experience for you, but it's like teaching your kids what you weren't taught. Right. And so, and really trying to be intentional with changing the narrative around that. And so for me, that's why I say it may not necessarily be like a superhero type thing, but I literally have had to really even since he was younger. Like he was, and granted, again, when you see you and your kid, he's a very strong-minded, headstrong little person.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Like
And
I be
so
like telling my daughter, like, I want you to be headstrong, but like after you move.
Yes. Yes. And so when you see you in your child, I remember like he was 3. And there was something that like I think I had asked him to do or whatever the case may be. And I remember hearing him say something and I was like, oh my goodness, like I see me in him. And I had to decide even then, and I know there's this big conversation around spanking and timeouts and all that other kind of stuff. And I tell people, child, sometimes the baby need a little spank on a little tap on the leg to catch their attention because it's like, okay, how many times do I have to tell this to you 10 times before we? And so for him, he was so headstrong that I remember tapping the leg to the point where I had literally had to say, we've got to find a different way to do this because I worked with kids for 20 years and I understood the dynamic of if you do something for a certain number of years or a certain length of time, by the time it really matters, it ain't gonna matter no more.
Yeah.
And so at that time, I decided that timeouts were what we were going to do. And he hated them, but he understood. I rather had, for me, I felt like he got it more than he got me tapping his leg. Like tapping his leg was like, okay, well, what does this mean? Like, there was no real consequence there.
Yeah.
And so even now, you know, changing the narrative, right? And rewriting how I raise my son and rewriting how I communicate with my son was kind of like, for me, it was a challenge because that wasn't how I was raised. It was a challenge because even when I went to certain spaces, even just the safe space for him, I gave him permission for people not to touch him and him not to touch people. Like you can say hello, but if you don't want to hug, you don't have to hug. You don't have to engage. And so when people really don't understand that and you have to explain that to them, and sometimes you get pushback, you kind of have to guard them so that they don't think that there's anything wrong with what they're doing while letting the other person know, listen, this is my kid. And so you may not have done that with your kid or within the family realm, but I'm changing the narrative and the dynamic of how we're moving because I also want him to be able to carry on something different or from what I was raised, but then carrying on something similar with how I'm raising him.
No, I agree with that. I absolutely love that. When you had said about spanking and about how you discipline, and just to be an educator, like sometimes people don't give credit to educators because they just see a teacher, but an educator is really a data analysis. Because we have to, on a constant basis, recognize what works and what doesn't. And we say work, it's not, is this a consequence for working? It is, did it produce the result that you're looking for? And if it didn't, you got to go back to the drawing board and come up with, revamp and look, okay, what things did work? And then you have to take it in small bites. Okay, what am I looking for here? And then what am I looking for long term? And so when we're thinking about, I want you to, like my daughter knows when she comes home, then you coming home, you get your snack, you do your chore, and then you get your homework or whatever the order is for the thing. But if I'm consequenting her for not doing it and the thing is still not happening, then I'm not doing the right thing to set up the environment for the right thing. And so even when it comes to things like spanking, like you have to also know who you're dealing with. Right? Like my daughter literally like a spanking, she feels disrespected. Like it is not like it's not like and her response will tell you, and she don't care, I'm mommy, like it's not, she's like, I'm disrespected because I've taught her respect is a thing that is due for honoring someone. And she's like, well, if you're not respecting me, then hold on. I don't care who you are. And it's a hard tussle. Plus, she's also a neurodivergent. And so she takes things very black and white. It's like, why did you just pop me? I missed what you're talking about. All I know is I've been disrespected. Right? So I have to then relook and say, that's not the right type of consequence or discipline to yield what I'm looking for.
Yes.
And so I think that is important for just people to hear. Like you have to look at situationally. So if you're looking at, disciplining your children, you got to look at situations. Discipline doesn't always mean, spanking or whatever. It could result from one thing and one another thing. And like, I like to call it even discipline, not even punishment, because punishment is purposeful for hurting. I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm trying to help you. And that I need to teach you discipline.
Yes.
So, so I really, really, really love that. And yeah, just being a mom is superhero in itself. So that's the cape you put on your
Yes.
mom.
Yes. And I think also determining, as a superhero. Now, I will say, and I just recently, I think maybe last week or the week before that, my YouTube channel, I do a weekly episodes called Tuesday Tea with D. And I want to say last week's Tuesday Tea with D, I talked about this idea of putting down my super cape, like, this cape, this superwoman cape, because people tend to expect you to show up in a greater capacity than sometimes what you're able to. And so even like as a mom, like one of the narratives that I had to change as it related to my son was really teaching him around rest and self-care and that sort of thing. And the major reason was because of the work that I do with women. I found that men were not as sensitive to self-care and letting their wives and the women that are in their lives rest. Like, what is rest? Like, why you need to rest? Like, I've been working all day. Well, what's this? And it's like not really knowing that rest is not something that we earn. Rest is necessary for how we move, right?
Mhm.
It's not, oh, I worked a long day, so I need to rest. It's I need to rest so that I can work a long day, right? I need to rest so that I can show up as my highest and best self. And so early on, I took off like that cape and I let him know, like, I'm tired. I don't feel like it. Like, as moms, sometimes we push through and we want our kids to believe that we can do all the things. I don't believe that for him, because as a man, I'm training him and I wanted to train him to be sensitive to his wife, to be
Mhm.
sensitive to the women in his life. So that if she's like, I'm tired, he can be like, well, why you didn't go get you a massage, or you're not taking a nap, or like, how are you taking care? I want that conversation to be different. And so that's another narrative that for me as a mom of a boy, I'm trying to create because of the women who I've worked with over the years, and even just personal experiences. Like I have parents in my 80s, and my dad in particular, like he's even retired, still sometimes has a difficult time, not doing things because it's like, oh, well, I feel like I should be doing it. And I'm like, bro, like you're 80. Like you're 80.
You're not resting.
Yes. Right. And he is resting, child. Him and my mom watch Western movies, child, all day. Child, they be on the couch living their whole best life. But even just there's certain narratives that still need
Yeah.
to be worked through, because as opposed to certain things where he could hire someone, he wants to do it. And I'm like, you can't do that, right? Like
Right.
you can, but you shouldn't. So yeah, I just think that we get to choose, and we get to decide what we come into agreement with. And being a mom is hard. Being a mom sometimes is like being a superhero, because our kids sometimes don't know the magic that we make. They don't
Mhm.
know how we jump through hoops, you know what I mean? Leap over buildings and jump through hoops in order to make things happen for them.
They
And
just
so
wake up and voila, magic.
yes, they don't have to. And so, it is to some extent, but I think for me, I've also tried to be extremely intentional with helping him to understand that there are days that I'm tired. And so his narrative is so great now, because if I come home and I'm tired and he's like, Mom, you're tired, you need to go take a nap.
Thank you.
Mhm. He'd be like,
Yep.
Mom, what are you doing? Like you look one day he said, you look tired. I think you might need to go take a nap.
The worst be when they be like, "You all right? Yeah, you look sick. I just put my makeup on. I just put this makeup on."
Look like you need to go sit down. I was like, oh, okay, thank you. I'm gonna go take a nap. Okay, Mom.
Appreciate
Make me
that.
wake up. He's like, you want me to wake you up? I'm like, no, I'm gonna set my timer. He's like, okay.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
So taking it a little bit lighter and in a different direction, just a little bit.
Hmm.
Because I just think laughter is good for the soul. I would love for you to share like a hilarious or unexpected like obstacle that you faced, like chasing your dreams, like this, your empowerment. Well, first of all, ever since I've known you, you've just been just a ball of like empowerment and just the things, but then flourishing in, Trueheart Speaks has just been great. I just love watching the journey there, but I would love to hear about like a hilarious or like unexpected obstacle that you came across as you were chasing just your dream for empowering others. And then like through that experience of empowering others, like what was the thing that helped you to persevere and thrive?
Mhm. Let me see. Oh goodness. I don't know if this is hilarious, but I think like we overcomplicate things. And I'll say it this way. So when I first started out years like back in 2016, so let me go back further. So like this whole thing that many of you are watching now via Zoom and listening on Apple, podcasts and Spotify and all that kind of stuff. It was not that simple back then. It was not simple at all.
Yeah.
And let me just tell y'all, I remember when I knew, so I'm a speaker, like I was born to talk. Like that's just what I knew. Like God began to talk to me about that. And so I started out like writing blogs and stuff. And I remember like, I'm like, and God began to tell me like, you can write, but the best way for people to connect with you is when you open your mouth. There's something about when you open your mouth, the anointing that's connected to your words, they just connect. And so I started saying, okay, bet, like I'm going to go live on YouTube, or I'm going to start a YouTube channel, and I'm going to like get all the things and all the stuff. And so, if you know anything about me, child, I am not a Miss Priss. I am not a glitz and glam. I just am not, honey. And so I remember like multiple occasions putting my makeup on, putting my clothes on, setting up the setup, which was not like this back then. And child, by the time I got done doing all of that, I was sleepy. I did not record no video. I went to sleep. I took me a nap. I was done. It was not happening. Do you hear me? I was just like, how do people do this? And I literally, I was like, I quit. I don't know. And so, depending upon how far back, your listeners go, if they remember Periscope, I started going live on Periscope.
I think that's where we started. I remember that because I used that in the classroom way back when. I
Yeah.
forgot about Periscope, did you? That should have been one of the throwback questions.
Yes. So, and that was back in like 2015, 2016. Periscope started around 2015. And so my son was very small back then. And so the challenge as a mom, as a parent, my husband worked overnight. And so like trying to just figure out the right time to do things. And so for many of you, this will also let you off the hook. I'm gonna give you two separate things. So the first thing was and I don't know if I'll talk about this story, but what led me going into doing Periscope, I did a 5-day quiet time challenge and really just helping people to get quiet. I recognize that in my space, my people really didn't know what that was like, right? Get quiet. Like, what are we getting quiet for? Why do we get quiet? You get anxious getting quiet, like silence. Why do we need silence? Like, I feel like, all of these thoughts. So I was really helping people to get quiet so that they could really position themselves to start hearing more from the Lord. I did a 5-day challenge. I was actually on my way to Charlotte to visit my best friend. And I was in the car and God literally said, on your way back. And I went live from 7 o'clock to 7:15, like that whole Monday through Friday. On the ride there, the Holy Spirit, I could hear him clearly say, when you get back, starting on Monday, you're going to go live every day and you're going to do exactly what you did this past week.
It's like I said, we're going to do it 1 week. I actually physically remember when you did the quiet time.
Yes. And so that began that whole process. And which is why I started off saying that sometimes we overcomplicate a thing. I literally just started going live and God let me off the hook. And he really gave me no excuse, because I don't know about y'all, other than maybe if you're getting up and you got to go to work or whatever. I was never fresh faced child at 7 o'clock in the morning. You was gonna get a good, like, I loved graphic tees, so I always had a cute graphic tee on. I just now started to get it into like the cute earrings, but you were always gonna catch me with some posts. I'd never go anywhere without earrings, and I would have me some lip gloss on. That's all you were gonna get. And literally, that's how things started for me, right? Now, being a mother, after a while, again, kind of just relinquishing y'all from the excuses, there were multiple days that my son was literally on the back of the chair, on the top of my head, in the back, entertaining the people. And I was still teaching whatever it is that I needed to teach, because I just decided that in this season, I'm a mom. Like, I'm not going to shame my son for being 3, 4, 5. And I'm also not going to stop doing what I'm doing, because I know that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And so that's kind of like, how I just kind of overcame getting out of my own way around feeling like everything had to be perfect. I had to be all dressed up. Like I got cute for y'all, but normally I'm, might be in a hoodie, with some sweats and a nice hot mug of tea, and we're kicking it. Like we're having really good conversation. So it doesn't have to be perfect. And sometimes, sometimes you just got to take a step back. And here's the other part I think is important, because in that, I think God removed the excuses by giving me an opportunity where all I had to do was show up on my phone and press a button. I didn't have lights. I had natural light. I had from the window. I had my phone set up like right here, so that I could talk to the people. Like there was no special, no ring lights, no none of that. And so I think a lot of times we overcomplicate things, and because we see what everybody else is doing. We don't know anything else. And so sometimes God literally has to say, okay, bet. I'm gonna do you one better. I'm gonna give you an opportunity. All you gotta do is press the button, get in front of some light, talk to the people. You be up early in the morning, so you don't have to. Not giving you enough time to make excuses to get out of it. And I was live for probably about 2 years in a row, daily, Monday through Thursday, 7:15 to 7:45 for the morning life scope.
That's wonderful. I think you just spoke a word to me because, like I mentioned pre-recording, how I do the mindful moments. And I share them daily, but I do them throughout the day. But literally, I will have it already. I get up at 4:30 in the morning. I will have whatever God has spoke to me in that moment, but I won't put it on because I got to get ready. Like you is ready. you are ready.
Listen, so you
And
is.
then it becomes almost like I don't post it or don't feel like posting it because it's not like Sarah Jake says in her sermon, like I gotta say it like I got it. I gotta say it like I feel it. And in that moment, I'm like, it's here. Like it's gonna always be in my heart. But in that moment, like this is how I got it. This is how I received it. But then I wait because then I gotta put some lip gloss on, make sure my face is looking like, hey, you got it when I gave it to you. Give it to them when I gave it to you.
Yeah. And in all
Definitely worked for me.
transparency, there were moments that I would wake up and I wasn't getting in the shower. I was waking up, I brushed my teeth, I washed my face, I put a clean shirt on, I did my video, I dropped my son off to school, I came home, and I got back into bed. Like if we want to eliminate all the excuses, because can we be honest, child, a nice hot shower, you going back to bed. You get in that shower and you get out, you like, oh, I got about 20 more minutes before it's time for me to go to work or do what I got to do. I can do that later. And so I literally eliminated the excuses. I got up, because I knew I was coming back home anyway. Like in most cases, like for you, you might be going to a building or you may be going somewhere else. But if you're home, child, don't nobody know. And none of y'all, and some of y'all didn't know until I just told you.
Right. That's true. That is absolutely true.
It just,
but like you said, even with what we see online, like I really want like generations, and especially like the younger generation, to hear like what you see online is only a presentation of what they're giving you. Like how many, we didn't have crop pictures. Like you took the picture, you had to wait till you went to Rite Aid, wasn't even Walgreens, to go and pick up the film that you got, and you got 24 and 15 of your pictures had the head cut off.
Yeah.
But you saved it because you're like, I know that's so-and-so in the picture. I got pictures of my photo right now where nobody have any heads in them. But
and it's blurry. Listen, no
and blurry sideways. And you like, but we didn't get to crop it and present
the
thing that we wanted to present. And
we didn't get a chance to take it over before we got it developed.
You didn't get a chance to take it over. And you didn't get it back until 2-3 weeks later.
Yes.
So even then you had to remember. It was when the Polaroids came out and you could shake it like this real quick.
Listen, there was a progression, because you are right. Like in one moment you had the film, remember the film? And you had to take the film and drop it off. And it went
the little strips.
Right? But then it also went from the roll, right? You had to take the roll out the camera and you didn't even see the strip, right? You just took the roll, and then it went from that to it was like weeks to sometimes as the time moved up, it would be like 2 or 3 days. Like you could drop it off and come back and get it like tomorrow. But then also like the Polaroids, so you could do the Polaroids, but you only had a certain amount. And now I think it was maybe like a roll of like 8 or 10.
And you can't shake it too fast because then the whole picture
don't get no water on it, child.
You get no water on that picture.
Listen, or reveal it. Wait, or you couldn't have it exposed to too much
Exposed
light.
to too much light. Yep.
Listen,
Yep.
they
And
don't know.
that's then the thing with that is, we can learn a lot from different generations, but there's a lot to be said that when people don't understand the process, then they don't appreciate the product. And just going back to what you said with regards to, you don't have to, because what we see, we start to develop a mindset. I've been listening to another podcast and they talked about how they would see people, like right now, the generation now is like working hard is lame. So they present like they're chilling, but then they take a picture for that. And then in the background, they got to go back to work and to do all the things. And so then what that produces is a generation of people who think, well, there must be something wrong with me because I got to do all of this to get that. And they not doing all of that. They not presenting to you.
Yeah, they're not telling the whole story.
I want to be real. I want to tell you, like, this is a lot. I'm a solopreneur. I do all of the editing, it's a lot. And so just to be free in that, what you said, like in that morning, like you don't gotta get all like if you got a message, you gotta give the message because sometimes the message is in the mess. So my hair being a little.
Listen,
I'm not gonna under present myself, but I don't need to over present myself.
Yeah, I would always show up. I showed up in a way that was authentic to me. Right. And so for some people, it might have been a blouse and some earrings and a little red lippy or something like that. For me, it was literally, and there were moments because I have, my I Speak Life brand. I had enough shirts, child, where I could wear a shirt every day and I was good. Like, okay, this is the uniform for this week for the Morning Life Scope. I have my shirts. Or if I would get a cute shirt, that would be my shirt that I would wear. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna wear this one this week, right? And so I always had like something fun to wear because people would ask about my shirts. But like I said, it wasn't until recently that I really, really over COVID, I started collecting earrings just because a friend who makes them online, she would have Facebook parties. And so she would make the parties and we didn't try, we at home, we don't have nothing to do. What else we gonna do? We gonna buy earrings. And so bought cute
anything else somebody's selling.
Listen. And so, that came, but it is a progression. It is work, right? And I think we get to appreciate the work and we get to appreciate what we do so that when the opportunity comes where we can have like kind of like all the things, we can remember like, man, I remember. Like and my thing is like if I had to do it again, I know how to do it again. I know how to start from the ground up. I know how to get on my phone and record from wherever I am and have a conversation. And I don't necessarily have to, look pristine or anything like that. And so I think it is important to have that conversation around the process and making sure that you don't miss the process or skip the process or even dilute the process to get to the product.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's even a lot to be said. Like if you do the work on the front end, then you're not having to be reactive on the back end. So kind of having that proactive mindset. And so what I'm just hearing from myself in this is like, when you talk about, having to do something, we can find all the excuses in the world. So I think that it's important, like, go ahead, give yourself the time to have all of the excuses, but now strategy, look at those excuses, say, okay, how can I eliminate that? How can I eliminate that? So if I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, I know I'm supposed to be doing this mindful moment, but in the morning I look crazy. Well, hey, wrap your hair up at night. I got a lot of it. Wrap it up at night, like I used to do back in the day when I would do that little doobie. Do that at night, so when you get up, you won't have to worry about that insecurity of I look crazy. I ain't about to get on camera like this. And so just doing the thing that you need to do to get the thing done that you need to get done. Let's just do that. It's like when you prepare lunches the night before, so you don't got to get up in the morning and be like, I don't know what's about to happen over here.
Yeah, child, listen. And all that hair you got, child, a messy bun is always cute.
Until the frizzy parts becoming like
listen, but is that the point of the messy bun? Just you put it up and
all the frizzy, right? I know, right? But it's like
just
girl, just put the bonnet on to go to bed. Like I'd be like, oh, I'm just put the bonnet on. And so when you get up at your 4:30 time, so you mentioned having a friend, during COVID and earrings. And so I kind of want to move into that space when it comes to just having a community. As women, we always say we need a good squad, like, right? And I know men need their thing, but I'm not a man, so I can't speak to y'all. I can only speak to who I am. but I would love to hear about how important you feel in communicating to other people, how important it is to have a bestie that keeps you laughing through tough times and cheering you on for your wins, but also giving you that shoulder to cry on for the things that you didn't win at.
Mm-hmm. I think it's extremely necessary to have a bestie, to have a crew. Like sometimes I think it's important to have more than one, because you have different friends from different levels for different things. So like I have friends that I only talk, and I won't say only talk, like we talk about everything, but there's certain friends that like I can talk business with them about my goals, all that kind of stuff. And in doing that, they understand. You know what I'm saying? Like they understand, if I say, oh, I don't know, let me just think really quickly. Like, even just, it's like, okay, well, like I'm looking forward to this, to the moment of where I'm like, what is the process for me to become like a 7-figure business owner, right? Some of my friends make that, they can't grasp like just that conversation and the process and what's necessary. And so I think you want to have people who literally you can just call and you can vent and you can have moments to say it didn't work. And they're not like, well, I told you, well, I don't know why you tried that anyway. Like you need people to be like, okay, all right, well, let's get the cry out. And then once you get the cry out, they're like, okay, so what's next? Like, so can you go back to the drawing board? Can you, you want people who you want people who can evolve with you during the different evolutions of your life. Right.
Yeah.
And so it may not be just one, right? Because your homie from 5th grade may not necessarily be, you know what I mean? Like that, like, listen, like they down for the cause, but they may not necessarily be going the same way that you're going from an entrepreneurial or a leadership standpoint. Like they're not reading the same leadership books that you're reading. They're not reading the same entrepreneurial books. They're not like, they may not be a mom, right? And so you might need a crew, a friend who is a mom. Like I think rather than, having the conversation around who's your one person is who are your people, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes for me, I have found, which was why it was important for me to create the communities that I created, was because for some people, they had people who they could cry on their shoulders, who they could kind of talk to them about the lows, but they couldn't really talk to them about the highs. Like I have a client who she has a trucking business, and I think the business hit like 192,000. And she was like, I feel like I don't have anybody who I could celebrate with that about.
Mm.
And so what happens, right, where you have somebody who you can share the lows, but you don't have nobody to share the highs? I think it's important to have both, right? And so if that person is not one person, be okay with finding more than one person who can share, right, the highs and the lows, the highs or the lows, or even that middle ground or the in between, where you don't feel isolated and feeling like you're the only one.
Yeah, that's good. I had struggled with I'm loyal to a fault, right? And so I've struggled with like if even the smallest things, like if I'm doing something, an event with some friends or going somewhere, bowling, whatever, and someone else asks like, "What you doing Saturday?" I'd be like, "How can I get this person to come so they can have fun too?" And how do I'm going with these friends, and I would be like female apologetics, like because they asked me 3 weeks ago, like all of the things, and so but I learned as being an administrator of a school when I was principal. First of all, I grew from being a teacher to being a principal. So I had went from being colleagues to with friends with my colleagues to then being their boss. And I think it's safe to say that sometimes we develop friendships sometimes because of the space that we're in. And so those become your friends in that space. And if you leave that organization, sometimes those people aren't your friends anymore. But if you grow in that organization, the friendship is amongst the parameters of what the position is, right?
Yeah.
And so growing in that space, I realized that they're still friends, but just not at the capacity that they were before because it looks different. Our relationship looks different.
Yes.
And where I struggled was, well, who are my friends now, right? Like I'm in a different city, like I have friends from my hometown and stuff like that. And so it's okay to have to develop relationships at the level of which you are. And so that kind of goes to what you said with regards to, having the friends that you can have those conversations with. I could not have conversations with the people that I was friends with before. Not when I say level, I don't mean like you're over or them, but they're not in the capacity that you are when it's having the conversation that you need to have about strategy and goals and things of that nature. We had a different level of conversation, and it was because it was a different focus. And so it's okay. I had to feel okay that, and my life coach had told me that, hey, Wiggins, you need to start going places with the people who are doing the things that you are doing and the things that you are trying to do, and develop relationships in those spaces so you can have those conversations. And I was like, and again, that loyalty, I was like, we can do that.
Yes.
Like, what about my other, they won't feel left. I get them there. And she's like, that's not your job to bring them there.
It's not. She's right. I'm with her.
But it took me a minute to grow in that space. And so anybody who's listening, I want you to hear that it's not disloyal and it's not dishonoring friends to make other friends. Like when you're little, you like, I can't, like now kids be like, my daughter be like, I got this best friend and that best friend. I'm like, them is not your best friends. I got 7 best friends. When we grew up, you had 1 best friend, maybe 2, but you didn't have. And then they began with the BF and then the BFF and then the BFF. And I'm like, how many is there? What does these mean?
And what does that mean?
How do you get forever?
Uh-huh. Wait,
and
you just got here.
Yeah. How long is forever? 2 years? Like, you'd be like, in 3 days, like, I don't talk to her no more. She wasn't your best friend. What you mean?
Yeah, I have to say that to my son as well. And he's like, yeah, that's my friend. I said, that's not your friend. You don't know him.
Yeah, that's what I did to her.
I said, you just met him. He's like, it is my friend. I said, do you know his birthday? Have you met
his mother's name?
Have
Get
I
that. You know his
met
mother's
his
name.
parents?
Right.
Right. Not have I met his parents?
Exactly.
Like, have we? No, that's somebody you met. That's somebody you go to school with or whatever. Right. You're learning to be friends, but he's not a friend. And so, when he was a little younger, he would get offended by that's my friend. And I'm like,
she still does. And I'm always like, I'm big on words. I'm like, let me tell you what a friend is. And she looking at me like, I'm just saying. She's like, does it matter? I'm like, it matters a lot. You'll pick that back up later in life when you talk about does it matter. So we talk about like significant relationships, and like, because like when we say friend, that's a significant relationship. So who would you say was like a significant source of inspiration or mentorship in your life, in particular terms of like empowering you to succeed in what you're doing, like even being at this level? Like, do you have a current mentor or a significant source that helps you in your journey of the things that you're doing for success?
I do. I have a few people that I work with who are mentors and coaches to kind of help guide me, right? And so I do have those. I want to say as far as like huge sense of inspiration, I will say my coach April. I can appreciate her honesty. I can appreciate her heart for people and her love for people. Um, and I mean, there's so many different things that I can appreciate about her. I will say my pastor, for me, the same thing, his heart for people, him and his first lady, who is a good friend of mine as well. For me, I am drawn to how you treat people. I pay attention to how you treat people. I pay attention to, how you pay attention to people because that's me, right? And so those are the things that really inspire me. I'm also inspired not necessarily by people who I know or who I follow, but by people who are doing things that I want to do, right? And so as an entrepreneur in the personal development and spiritual development space, it is really important for me. And it really brings me joy when I'm able to see like kingdom entrepreneurs doing amazing things, right? Making lots of money, giving back, sewing into the community. Because for me, that has always been a thing that I've always said that I want to do. Like I want to be able to represent the kingdom in a way where when people see it, they know it was God. And so those are things that inspire me, right? I love the beach. So anytime I see folks like on the beach and like just, relaxing, I'm like, ooh, I want to be there. And so that's like a lighter thing, but I think you need that as well. Like, what are the things that you enjoy that are not necessarily that drive you to kind of work all the time, but are also, things that influence, right? And so for me, freedom has always been a big word of mine, that centers around how I want to live. And so people who live that out, um, are people who inspire me because, growing up, right, when we talk about being an 80s and a 90s baby, like, my parents were middle class, workers. And so there are certain lifestyles that I was never exposed to, certain thought processes, certain, ideologies that I was never exposed to. And so when I got to a place of where I started to see things a lot different, there was just something in me that was like, well, if they can do it, I can do it. Right. And so I have a lot of different people who I like, that I listen to. But outside of my coach, my pastor, I have best friends that are doing amazing things that inspire me and we inspire each other. My community inspires me, right? And so I have a free community and two paid communities, and so seeing those ladies and what they do and how they impact those that they're connected to and the work that they do, that inspires me. So it just it's probably not the I don't think there's a right or wrong answer, because I feel like anyone who you talk to is going to give you a different answer, but I feel like there's not just one person. For me, it's the experience that I have, you know what I mean? And that experience that I have with those people is what inspires me. And, and I think so, forgive me, Lord. I think the biggest inspiration is just my relationship with God,
Yeah, I
right?
mean, I felt like that went without saying, but I guess we have to say it
Yeah.
because when people,
Well,
it
we
doesn't.
have to,
Yeah,
because I think
yeah,
people listening, I don't want to, it's like, I know you, you know me, but people who are listening, that
right.
relationship in and of itself is being in a space when you see God show up for you in ways where you like, man, like, you really care about me.
Yeah, yeah. And especially like when it's something for me, it'll be something like right away. And then we forget how, as a parent, we see our kids struggling with something. We want to help right away. Like, why do we think God that same way? Like, you really, really hurt me. Oh, I
Yes.
thoughts, you heard it in my thoughts. Like,
Yes.
God.
Yes. And it's like, wow. And so then, it inspires you not only to show up for your kids, but just it inspires you to be like, okay, Lord, well, let's keep going. Like, I was a little discouraged, but I'm ready to do this now.
Yeah,
So, so
yeah.
yeah.
I think that's phenomenal. I was when I was doing some studying recently, and I think I did a post on this. I did do a post on it, but I was like I said, a lot of my leadership comes through how I parent, and because that's God's really showing me. And through the pandemic, really, when we were quarantining for real, like wasn't nobody coming to our house. And at that time I was freshly separated, going into a divorce. And so it was just me and my daughter. My son would come visit sometime, but in the beginning portion, he wasn't, because he was decided to stay at the house where his dad was, because he was a grown up by then. And so it was just me and her. And so the things that she would do, like I remember a friend saying, "Oh, you're so lucky," and I'm like, "Why?" He's like, "Oh, because you get to see the good things in your daughter," and I was like, "Yeah, but it ain't just the good things. Like, I get to see the things that I don't like in her as well. She was a true reflection." And so, like when you said, when you see you in your children, when my
Yeah.
daughter would do something, and I was like, "I don't like that. Where'd you get that from?" And I had to look around like, she got it from you. You the only. And matter of fact, we were looking at some shirts online. My mother was buying her some shirts, and it was like, "Where'd you get that attitude?" And it said, "Homegirl, you." And I was like, "We're not getting that. That's rude and disrespectful," because it said homegirl. If it didn't have the homegirl part, but I think about that because it was a true reflection of me. And so when I'm my leadership, lots of times I'm literally smacked in the face
Yeah.
immediately,
Mhm.
like the next day in devotion. So we talk about how God is able to address the things that we need immediately in my devotion and my reading and my studying. It's like, oh, dang, like, oh, hey, I thought that I knew I sucked at that to yesterday, but dang it, thank you for it's first it's like, dang it, then it's like, okay, thank you for bringing that to my attention. And so it's funny because the one day she was doing something with not being grateful about the breakfast or something. It's always food with her. And I was angry, and I know that my demeanor and the way I handled it was not the most loving, right? And knowing that I wasn't proactive on the front end, so I was more reactive in how she processes things, right? So I want her to just be like me, like, just get over it, right? And so I'm reading, and it says, it was in Psalm, and it said how God is kind and tenderhearted to those who don't deserve it, and how He is so patient, not just patient, so patient to those who are not nice to Him.
Uh-huh.
And so I was sitting there like this. You know, at first she's like, "Oh, you talking to me?" Oh, and so I was like, "Dang, I wasn't even kind and tenderhearted to those who did deserve it. And I wasn't even a little bit patient, not even so patient to the one who was kind to me." And I was like, and so then you sit there, you just kind of think like, oh, I'm gonna do this again. Like, so just thinking about the reflective practices of how we show up. And so that goes to what we were saying about like who are our mentors and who are the people that kind of guide us in being an experience. Like I truly believe that every time we come encounter with somebody, it is an experience. And I do try to focus on making sure that I give the best experience. Like when I was a teacher, it was like, I was like Jim and the holograms. Like I touched my earrings like Showtime synergy, and I knew I was for a Grammy, and this was going to be the best experience. You remember Jim? See, truly, truly, truly outrageous. Can't sing too much of it because they'll cut your video off. But
I got the whole visual.
that's a whole visual, right? Right on my earring, and I had Jim and the holograms, and I was Jim, and I was going to get the best performance. But sometimes I think as an adult, I know, not sometimes, I forget about the experience when I'm out and doing things with other people. Like, yeah, I am a supportive factor to them, and I'm giving them an experience, and maybe I'm a mentor or a guiding light through our interaction. But then I forget, like, who am I leading every single day? I'm leading this little human who is going to be growing into a woman, and am I giving her the best experience? It is, if someone asked her that same question of like, who is your significant source of inspiration, will she say me?
Yeah.
And I don't want it to be, okay, well, on Tuesday she was, but today, no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. She was not. Like, and I only want those answers to be fueled by because I was just being crazy today. Not like, if I had to scale it out, it would be a no. Like I'll be telling her sometime, like, when you go to counseling, when you get older, because we all need it, I do not want you to be lying on the couch talking about me because I am not the one. I want to make sure I give you the experience. So she probably thinking that's exactly what I'm gonna say. The fact that you're talking about me being on the couch.
You're like, I don't want to be the one that you're talking about. I'm
Right.
trying.
I want to make sure that when they say who is the person, I'm trying to set you up so you can be like, well, my mom did help me, not to get here, but so with that being said, like all the things that you're doing and that even through the just such an impact, like what would be the things that you feel like if you were yourself outside looking in, like really having that theme of what I said in the beginning of you being the you that you needed to succeed? That's how I had to show up. I had to look at, okay, what did I need? And then how can I present that to the world? Because it may be something else that someone else needs. So if you were yourself outside looking in, what would be a specific example that you would say that Detra does to lift others up and contribute to their success or empower them? What was that thing?
Oh no. Um, it's like you're aware of yourself, but when you think about it from that perspective, like I don't try and think if I even take time to think about it. So the first answer I will say, like I automatically had an answer for this was for 20 years when I ran my nonprofit, my girls program, the Young Miss Buffalo pageant, right? That was a program that I created, and it was kind of like I was even though I had experienced a lot of different opportunities. So I am a dancer, my background of dancing and pageantry and that sort of thing. But I created that program not only based around my own experiences, but I really wanted to make sure that I was creating something that somebody like me needed for girls who looked like me. And it wasn't necessarily a for Black and brown girls only, but as you know, in spaces of leadership, aren't always there. Right. And so it matters. It doesn't matter. I mean, it matters obviously when you have Black and brown girl programs and different things like that, but it also matters when you have Black and brown leaders over all spaces. And so I think for me, that was really important. And then I think even in the space that I'm in right now, creating spaces for women of faith to be able to flourish, and creating spaces for women of faith to be able to fully step into who God had called them to be in the various facets that they called them to be, and not just from a ministry standpoint. And so like for me, I'm an ordained elder now, which was never on the cards. Like that was never anything that I was just like, oh, like, I don't think anybody does, but like some people, which is weird to me. And if that's you, I'm not calling you weird, but some people just in their minds are like, I feel like, like I want to be an elder. I want to be this. That was never my thing. Although when I was called to ministry, I thought the work that I was doing was my ministry. Like I didn't know God was going to have me in ministry and marketplace. And so the thing that I think was really important for me, even now, is giving people, and I remember, shout out to Christy if she watches this at some point, I remember her saying, she's part of my community, she was like, I remember when I first found you on Periscope, she was like, over the years, she said, you made living for Jesus look fun.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
Right. And so
that for a second before you say that, because that is so important. I just go back to mothering and parenting and whatever it is you're doing. Like if you are a light for Jesus, the one thing that I think that sticks to my mind, like especially for a babe, not just a babe in age, but a babe in Christ or someone who is kind of watching you. I don't want them to say, well, if serving God is like that, I don't want it. Like if you got to yell, you got to scream, you got to do that. And I mean, as a mom, I've done it. I do it still. And I have to sit back and think, dang it, did I look like Jesus yesterday? No, I didn't. I wasn't even so patient.
Yes.
Even a little bit.
I was no patient.
It was no patient. So I love that somebody can come back and say that, like that is like that, well done, good and faithful servant. It's not just when you get to heaven, it's like that somebody else can be like, yeah, I love that. So I'm sorry I cut you off.
No. And so I think those are the things that for me, like, I feel like I've always, years ago, I remember saying, and I don't listen to any of their music, but when I remember it was at some point, it was specifically like Jay-Z, Beyonce, and there was somebody else, and they were very instrumental in donating like lots of money to like different foundations and different causes and all that kind of stuff. And I remember having a conversation with the Lord saying, like, where are the kingdom leaders who are doing that? And I would say to him, like, Lord, if you gave me an opportunity, like, I want to be that for you. Like, for us to be able to see people who have influence, and who are believers of Jesus Christ, but who are funding, like, building people's houses, and who are paying for, like, even just listening to stories of like Tyler Perry, where I think like the one day for Christmas, he was in Walmart and paid everybody's layaway. Like, where are the kingdom followers who are doing that kind of stuff?
And why wasn't I in the
You said what?
And why wasn't I in the Walmart when
Listen, and why wasn't I in the Walmart, child, so I can get my stuff taken care of, honey? But it's like, and those for me, I feel like on the outside looking in, my job is to challenge you to dream bigger.
Yeah.
My job is to, because I've always been a big dreamer, right? And so, and it does, and for me, I'm okay with you surpassing me. Like, we don't have to be on the same level for me to speak into your life, because I understand the power of who I am. And so I don't necessarily have to be making what you make, or doing what you do in order to impact and influence and impart into you, because I understand that it's not me anyway. Right. And so whatever God gives me for you is for you to take off, not for me to be able to do it and all that other kind of stuff. So I'm good with that kind of stuff. But on the other end, and I get like some people do a whole bunch of stuff, but they don't want to be known for it or whatever. But I feel like at the end of the day, like, where does God get glorified in that?
Yeah, yeah. That's crazy because that's a great point. I was struggling with when I was a principal and in the spaces where I was around many people. Now being my own boss, I'm not around. I gotta put myself out there. Before I was there, and I was not like I was doing great things in the school, right? But I was not like, hey, like look at this or look at these things or showing case things because I felt like I was like, I'm doing it because I love it. I don't need to be broadcasted. It wasn't until after that I realized that me not wanting people to know was not me being humbled. It was me being thinking about the what I had put on in childhood trauma that I didn't want to be highlighted because I didn't want to deal with the things that I dealt with as a child. That was that. It was also the enemy diluting what humble was. Like humble, like shut your mouth. You don't, that's gloating. And it was like, no, gloating is when you say, look what I did. Humbled is like, look what I did through Christ. Look what the Lord gave me to do so that he can get the glory, so that people can see. The devil wants you to shut your mouth. Like, no, you be quiet. Don't talk about that. And you're like, oh, I'm just being humble over here. That ain't, no, you're not.
And the other part is when you look at a lot of the work that they were doing, it wasn't them telling the story, right? So when we hear about whoever it is, right, giving $10 million to X, Y, and Z, there was never a conversation from that person, but their donation was never anonymous. And so I think you hit it like right on, hit the nail on the head. Is I think it is important for us to be okay with people knowing what we do. And I think the other part is I think it, because sometimes it's like, well, I don't want people to know I got all that money. Well, I'm not gonna give you none anyway. So like,
Right, right,
we're not
right,
that
right.
cool. We are not first cousins on your grandma's uncle's side. So
Exactly. Exactly.
it's, and so I think when that comes with the conversation around boundaries and clarity and, making sure that you have like your stuff in order and all that kind of stuff. And obviously too much is given, much is required, like there's levels to it. But I think the other part is like, we have to be okay, with doing well and then doing something with it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's called planting the seed, right? In
Yes.
order for it to grow, you have to you get by giving, like you get, and that's whatever you're given. If you're given a word, then you have to plant the seed. If you're given funds, you have to plant the seed. If you're given art, you get, like artists don't paint pictures and put them in a basement. Like,
Right.
right. I do Thursday Thriving Thursdays live. And the one thing I said on there, again, it was about leveraging your network, is last Thursday what I did. And it was about not what humble meant, right? And so I mentioned, like, you don't see any Super Bowl players, they're gonna wear that ring every chance they get. They don't get it and then go put it in the basement or in the drawer. When you go to a school and they run trophies, it's in a showcase.
Mhm.
It's not, okay, we got this trophy, we're gonna go ahead and put this in a classroom and lock the doors up.
And the showcase is right it's where people can see it when they walk in.
You can walk in because you're gonna be like, oh my God, wow. And we
Yes.
need, as kingdom believers, we need to be that wow factor. Nobody wants to be like, okay, you serve a good God. Are you
Mhm.
sure?
Yeah.
You look mad. Don't nothing look that good to be that mad.
Yes.
Like,
I
I
wish
love that.
like the math is not mathing in this
The
equation.
math is not, and this ain't girl math, because girl math make it all look good. So that can't be it.
Right.
Oh my God, Deidre, I love it. Okay, so I do have a mystery question.
Okay.
Mystery, mystery, mystery. I got antics. All right, here's your mystery question. What's your go-to power anthem that helps make you feel like you can conquer anything, or at least that day?
Hmm. Um, I would say, are we thinking like song or saying or
Whatever it is that's the thing that's like, yep, I can conquer the day because of this. If it's a song, if it's a saying, what is it?
so I do have a playlist. But I would say one of the things that, and I don't say it like this, but I'm going to simplify it, is check your receipts.
Your receipts. Put some respect on my name. Check
Yes.
your receipts.
Yes. When I'm like, feeling some kind of way about myself or whatever,
Mhm.
I remind myself like, child, like, did you forget? Like, I think you forgot. I'm
No.
gonna need for you to remember. And sometimes what I will do, again, it may not also be like a saying of some sort. I talk to myself the way I talk to my clients. I'm like, okay, so what's going on here? Like, why are we tripping? Like, what's the holdup? Why we not what's the work that we need to be doing in order to make sure X, Y, and Z? But the bigger thing is like for me to remind myself of what I've done, how far I've come, what I have overcome. And then also in whose name I'm doing it, because I
Yeah.
think the other part is sometimes for me, and somebody else, this might be for you too, is that when we get caught up in a thing, we forget whose power we're actually doing it in. And so when we get caught up in thinking, oh, well, this is me, it's like, no, actually, it's not you. That's why you're hung up, because now that you can't do it in your power, you're trying to figure it out. But it was never in your power anyway. It was never your favor. It was never your grace. And so, yes, you've been anointed to do it. But when you step out of that anointed, you just like everybody else.
That's
And
like
so for me, it's like, check your receipts. Like you're not new to this. You're true to this. Like there are receipts to the work that you've done, the people you've impacted, the places you've gone, how you have like you're still standing and you shouldn't be. Like when I start talking to myself that way, I'm like, yeah, you right.
And I think that just goes back to what we just said about what humble is,
Mhm.
because I think checking your receipts also puts you in check because
Yes.
you're like, you're not being humble, you're being silent. You
Yeah.
pull out your wallet where we keep all our receipts in that wallet so we clean it out. Pull out your wallet. Get your wallet out. Like what
Like,
get this out. And you can start looking, oh, oh, like I literally was in a season where the enemy had me thinking like, did I even really get them degrees?
hmm.
Did you get them? They on the wall. But I'm thinking like, but it was easy, so it must didn't do the work.
Mhm.
Check your receipts. Go back to that date, like when you was trying to get 2 minutes of sleep before the 3 a.m. deadline. It wasn't easy.
Check, now check them papers, them hours. Listen, go
Yeah,
back.
but check your receipts. Like check yourself before you wreck yourself. What? That's another.
Listen,
That's
that's
another.
another 90s song.
That's another 90s. Yeah, there you go. Chickadee, check your receipts. I love it. All right. So in the spirit of definitely just empower women, I would love to know about like what are some initiatives that you have going on. That this will air in the summer time. And so if you have things that you know that are going on there, or just how can the listeners support you,
Mhm.
be there for you, be part of your community, part of that ever growing success of what you're doing, part of that legacy, but being impactful when they're part of that community or just theirs to impact somebody else.
Yeah.
I love
So I would say one of the things is if you are in a space where, and by the time when you get this, I will probably be full swing in promotion, but I have a 3-day event coming up in December. It's December 6th, 7th, and 8th, called I Speak Life Live. It is my empowerment experience for women of faith. And this is the event where women who pour out come to get poured back into. This is for the high performers, the high achievers. This is for the women who, you do all the teaching, the equipping, the serving, the loving, the leading, and you do it to some extent without anything in return. But because you do it without anything in return, you sometimes have little than less to give back out, but you still give. And so we reignite dreams. It gives you an opportunity to unplug. It gives you an opportunity to kind of check your receipts and remember who you are. But it also gives you an opportunity for me. I've been saying this for the last maybe like couple of weeks is it is a safe and soft and secure space to land. Where sometimes you just need a place to land, right? You don't need a place where all of the titles, like the degrees, the titles, none of that matters when you walk into the room. You as the woman is who I'm there to serve. And so I want to personally invite the women who are listening. You can get information at ispeakLifeLive.com, ispeakLifeLive.com to get details. But you can follow me on YouTube, and you can find me at Detra Trueheart. And so every Tuesday I do a Tuesday Tea with D, and I'm online on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok. I think those are the major ones in addition to YouTube. And you can also go to my website, make sure you're a part of my email list. I have 3 communities and it's one big community. And so I have a free community on Facebook called the I Speak Life Society. And so you can find us there. And so every Monday I do a Monday morning walk talk. And then my paid communities are my inner circle. And then I also have a high level group coaching program called the I Speak Life Incubator. And so that normally launches, I normally do enrollment around December sometime. And it's normally at my live event, which is why a lot of people don't hear about it. But any chance that I get an opportunity to help you get out of your own way so that you can stop settling and show up for yourself in the same way that you show up for others, I am there. I feel like you do all the things well for everybody else but yourself. And so it is important to me that in the same way that you pour into others, you want to allow yourself to pull back to be poured into and to give of yourself in the same way that you give to others. So
I love it. I absolutely love it. All of the links will be in the description boxes for every social media that this will post. And so if you did miss anything, rewind it because you just probably need to hear something again. But if not, and you can look in the description, you have all of the links there, updates for the I Speak Life live event, the details for that, and all of the ways that you can follow Detra. Detra, this has been an experience
it's so
for
good.
me, for sure. I definitely got some things that I have to put in my pocket. I have some activity checking of myself that's there. But I am just ecstatic about this conversation and about what it will do for ladies who are listening.
Yeah.
This has just been phenomenal.
It
Any
has.
last words that you want to impart with the people before we close out?
I think I would just kind of summarize some of the things that I shared is and I didn't say this, but I would say, like, don't take yourself too seriously, laugh at yourself, which is what we did today. Check your receipts. Don't confuse humility like with silence. And I think the other part is, get rid of the excuses and keep it simple. Like, there are certain things that have been shared today that I think will relieve, your listeners from the stress of feeling like they have to have it all figured out. And I will say, this is the one thing that I didn't mention, but that I will say is that when you are dealing specifically with assignments and direction that is given from God, he's not going to give you all the answers. And so a lot of times you are stagnating yourself because you're waiting for more than what he's going to give you, but you have not done what he has already told you to do. And so if it is just as simple as taking out the phone and starting to record or writing in the journal, right, until you get to the point where the book is complete, or filling out the application, for the job, or starting your resume, like there's some minor things, right? It could be waking up every morning at 6 o'clock for prayer. There's some simple things that God is already speaking to you about as it relates to some desires that you have in your heart. And so when you show obedience to those small things, and sometimes when you do the one thing, the next thing will come, but you won't get the next thing until you've done the first thing. And so I think it is important that we stop overcomplicating, which I said in the very beginning. Stop overcomplicating some stuff and just do the thing that God is telling you to do, so that for one, because I want to tie this into, even if you have children, your children are watching you. And so your legacy of faith, your children are watching. And so as you've seen and heard the conversation that we've shared, that doesn't have to be perfect, right? They get a chance to see us go back to be redeemed and justified and make mistakes, because that is the life that we live. And so it's okay that perfection is not required for the journey. Check your receipts, do the work, be obedient, and all will be well.
Yes. Well, guys, you heard it here. Perfection is not required for the journey. This definitely brings us to an end. Might I say, another fantastic episode of Tawana Talks with a huge thank you to my incredible, phenomenal woman, Detra Trueheart. Thank you so much again for allowing me this experience. I am so grateful for this time that I was able to spend with you. To all our listeners out there, thank you for tuning in and being a part of this journey with us. Your support definitely means a lot to me, and I cannot do this without you. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so that you never miss an episode. And be sure to share this podcast with friends and family and anybody you think can be inspired by this talk and any of the talks. But until next time, stay empowered, stay inspired, and keep shining bright. Take care, and we'll catch up on the next episode of Tawana Talks. And I will talk to you soon. Hey, thanks so much for listening. Don't forget to go ahead and hit that subscribe button, like, and share with a mom or someone that you feel this information would be extremely helpful for. Then head over to Instagram and follow me on my Instagram account at TL Collaborative at Dr. T. Wiggins. As always, stay thriving.